I'm going to be talking about natural and related consequences. I think most of us probably know someone or probably have been spanked at one time of our life by our parents. Many people still believe that this is the best way to discipline their children or addressing misbehavior, most likely simply because they don't know better or this is how their parents discipline them, and so they think that that is the best way. But by now, most of us know that this is actually not the best way of addressing misbehavior, and uh, natural and related consequences are a much better option. As you can see on the right here, 4 to 5 year olds, 95% of them are being spanked, and this is kind of a sad statistic because we know that this is not going to yield the best results, and there are much better ways for parents to address their child's misbehavior. So first we'll talk about natural consequences, and let's talk about what it actually is. Natural consequences are something that happens naturally as a result of an action. Um, for example, we'll say 8-year-old Jackson is being kind of a bully in the class. He's taking his friends' toys. He's calling them names. He's just kind of bossing them around, and he kind of gets away with this in the classroom. But once he gets out into the playground, he finds that his friends are kind of avoiding him and they're leaving him out. And this is because of his actions. And he's seeing firsthand how his actions are affecting himself and others around him. So this is something that it releases the caregiver of constant reprimands. We've all seen the teacher who is constantly having the children pull a card or change the color or move their clip or whatever it may be. But this isn't a natural consequence of an action. This is very adult imposed, and it really doesn't work very well, especially in the classroom. But natural consequences, it gives the child who experience their actions and the consequences of their actions, and this is something we're going to talk about proper uses of it. It's not intervening; it's allowing the child to make the mistakes and to learn from them, because we all know that really the only way to learn truly is from learning from our mistakes and not from people telling us what to do or why to do it. And sometimes children are unable to come to a solution, or they're not able to fix their problem. And in those cases, it is important for the adult to guide the child to the solution to the problem. You also want to let the inevitable happen. It's okay for children to experience failure. In fact, it's very important for them to experience failure because they need to learn how to deal with failure. And they won't if parents are constantly overprotecting and not allowing them to experience these things that are inevitable in their lives. And we'll also talk about related consequences. Related consequences are directly tied to the child's behavior. We use an example here. 4-year-old Ella is playing with blocks, but she keeps wanting to throw them at the window. And the teacher has sat down and explained to her that this is not appropriate. She shouldn't be throwing the blocks at the window. She explains to her why, that the window can break, that it can hurt other people throwing them across the room. But still, Ella continues to do it after several warnings, and so the teacher takes the blocks away. This is actually called deprivation. And this is something that's directly tied to their behavior. It's not off the wall, it's not completely foreign or separate from their actions. It's closely related. Some other forms of related consequences are exclusion, removing the child from the situation, doing to the child what the child has done, as in, the little saying, do unto others as you would have them do to you. An example of this would, if a child is not helping clean up whenever you ask them, then you say, well, I'm not going to help you whenever you clean up. And so this is another form of that. And then also restitution is another great form of discipline. An example of this would be, if a little boy, Ben, helps Frankie rebuild the tower that he purposely knocked over. This is something that makes him feel like he's being helpful rather than he's a bad kid. And so it's a form of consequence, but it's not a punishment. And so let's take a look at Mrs. Frazzle. Before she learned about related and natural consequences, poor Sid, he was always in trouble for being reprimanded. Mrs. Frazzle focused most of her energy on trying to modify Sid's behavior instead of helping him fix it or find a solution. Sid's behavior had little improvement from the things she was doing. She was most likely having him pull his card or move his clip or something like that, and it just wasn't helping. And the emotional environment of the classroom was very chaotic because she wasn't there fully teaching. She was mostly having to reprimand and having to modify behavior, and her discipline was becoming obsolete whenever it's so repetitious in the classroom. Children begin to not really care if they get in trouble, because what does it mean? It just means I'm going to move a clip, and nothing happens from that. But after Mrs. Frazzle learned about natural and related consequences, Sid's consequences became relevant to his actions. Whenever he was misbehaving, the teacher, Mrs. Frazzle, found a way to make his consequences natural or related. It was tied to his behavior. And she also began working with his behavior instead of against it. And Sid's frustration with Mrs. Frazzle ceased because he understood the reason for his consequences. As before, he had no idea why he was having to pull his card, because it had nothing to do with him pulling so-and-so's hair or whatever it is that he was doing. His behavior began to improve greatly, and the classroom environment became structured and functional. And overall, Mrs. Frazzle was able to help the children modify their behavior and help them build moral autonomy, and the classroom was just a lot peaceful and functional environment. That's it.